The chandeliers of the Al Noor Grand Hotel sparkled like stars frozen in gold. Beneath them, 100 guests mingled over champagne and sugar dates, laughter rising above the soft notes of a live string quartet. The air was heavy with perfume, pride, and polished secrets. Zara stood still in the chaos, a vision in white and silver. Her bridal lehenga shimmered with tiny crystals, delicate embroidery climbing from her ankles to her chest like frost. But her face, beneath the perfect makeup, behind the shy smile, was distant. Her eyes kept drifting toward the man in the corner. Khalid, 50 years old, proud, charismatic, with the air of someone who always had the last word and never needed to raise his voice. He wore a deep navy tuxedo with a black silk bow tie, his salt and pepper hair slicked back neatly. His glass of whiskey caught the chandelier light every time he lifted it, always in her direction. Her fingers twitched against her side. Then came the warmth of Omar's hand wrapping around hers. "Zara," he whispered, turning her gently to face him. "You're shaking." She blinked and forced her lips into a smile. "I'm just tired," she said. "So many people." "You're doing great," he beamed. "They love you. I love you." He kissed her forehead. He meant it. Zara didn't respond. She couldn't. The reception was winding down. The ballroom was quieter now, a soft hum of music and distant chatter as people filtered out. Zara stepped onto the hotel balcony, taking a deep breath of the warm Dubai night. Down below, the lights of the city blinked like warning signs. Behind her, Omar entered with a plate in one hand and a folded piece of paper in the other. "Hey," he said, "you won't believe this." She turned sharply. "Someone left this on my dessert plate," he chuckled. "Probably one of your cousins playing a prank." He held it up and began reading aloud. "Ask your bride who she was with last weekend in Abu Dhabi." Silence. A long, suffocating silence. Zara's heart dropped like a stone. What is that?" she asked, trying to sound confused. "Some joke?" he said, watching her. "You told me you were at your cousin Amina's." "I was," she lied, too quickly. His face changed, just a flicker, but enough. "Who would write that?" he asked, folding the note slowly. "I don't know," she whispered. "Maybe someone jealous." "I don't know." He stared at her, her hands, her eyes, the way she didn't reach for him. A voice behind them cut the moment. "May I borrow the bride?" "Khalid." He walked up with perfect confidence, his glass still half full. His smile was charming, but his eyes were sharp, possessive. Omar stepped aside without thinking. "Of course, Baba." Khalid placed his hand gently on Zara's lower back and guided her a few steps away from a balcony. "Why is he asking about Abu Dhabi?" he said softly, eyes never leaving hers. "I don't know," she replied, voice trembling. He leaned in closer. "I told you this would happen if you weren't careful." "You said no one would find out," she whispered. "And they wouldn't have, if you hadn't started looking so guilty." Zara's breath caught. "I'm married to your son now," she hissed. "Whatever happened, whatever mistake I made, is over." Khalid smiled, tilting his head slightly. "No, Zara, nothing is over. You wear his ring, but you still belong to me." Her mouth went dry. She stepped back, but he didn't move. "You're not going to ruin this for me," she whispered. "I don't have to," he said, sipping his drink. "You're doing a fine job of it yourself." An hour later, Zara and Omar stepped into the private elevator toward the penthouse suite. She stood beside him in silence, clutching her jewelry box with both hands. He held her hand gently, too gently, like someone who wasn't sure if he should. Inside the suite, the lights were soft. The bed was decorated in petals and silk, but the air between them was tense. "I'm going to take off this makeup," Zara said quietly, heading toward the bathroom. Omar nodded, still watching her like he didn't recognize the woman in front of him. When she closed the door, he reached into his pocket and pulled out the note again. He didn't want to believe it, but something in her eyes. He picked up his phone and called the front desk. "This is Omar Al-Sayed," he said. "I need to check something." 10 minutes later, Omar stood in the hotel security office, staring at a screen. The manager handed him a tablet with the guest logs from the Al Bahar Resort. "Guest, Khalid Al-Sayed. Check-in Friday. Guest added, Zara Khan. Same suite. Omar's mouth went dry. It was true. She hadn't just lied. She'd been with his father. He walked back to the suite like a man in a dream. Inside, Zara was standing by the window again, still in her wedding dress, her face bare of makeup now real, vulnerable. She turned when he entered. I need to talk to you, she began. But he held up the tablet. His hands were shaking. You were in Abu Dhabi. Zara froze. He took a step closer. With him. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Omar's voice broke. My father? Zara began to cry. Omar, I was trapped. I didn't know how to say no. You said yes. You said yes to me. I didn't want any of this. How long? He asked louder now. She shook her head. It didn't mean anything. How long? He was screaming now. Zara's sobs grew louder. Months, maybe more. Silence fell like a curtain between them. Omar backed away, grabbing his keys, his watch, anything to avoid looking at her. I need air, he said. I need to think. Then he left the suite, and she collapsed to the floor, gasping, unable to breathe. In the hallway, Omar didn't go far. He walked toward the elevator. He had only one destination, in mind now, his father's villa. The first time Zara saw Khalid Al-Sayed, he didn't look like a man in his 50s. Not to her. He walked into the luxury penthouse she had been assigned to redesign, tall, confident, wearing a light blue shirt tucked into crisp trousers, sleeves rolled to the elbows, Rolex flashing subtly with every movement. He didn't shake her hand. He studied her instead. You the designer? He asked, eyeing her clipboard and heels. Yes, sir, she replied. Zara Khan. I work with Al Jazeera Interiors. You're too young for this level of work, he said, eyes narrowing. But beautiful. Let's see if you're also good. Zara was 24 at the time. Her life was stacked like loose papers. A shaky freelance contract, a rented apartment in Sharjah, and a sick mother back in Lahore who called every week asking when she was getting married. She had dreams of stability, of getting her mother treatment at a private hospital, of being somebody. Khalid smelled that from day one. Over the next few weeks, he began showing up at her job sites, unannounced, lingering too long. You have an eye for expensive things, he once said, watching her select a rare marble slab. Pity your salary can't afford them. She laughed nervously. It's enough, alhamdulillah. But not for long, he replied, voice dropping. You'll outgrow your paycheck. Most pretty women do. She tried to avoid him after that. But when her company sent her to his personal villa for a follow-up consultation, she had no choice. He greeted her alone at the door. No house staff today, he said. Just us. Her instinct said, leave. But her logic said, you need this client. Inside, everything was marble, gold, velvet. He led her to the dining room. I had lunch made for you, he said. I already ate, she lied. He poured wine into 2 glasses. Then pretend. Zara didn't touch the drink. But she did eat. She didn't laugh at his jokes. But she didn't leave either. That was her mistake. It was never love. Not really. Not even lust. It was a transaction. Silent, unspoken, but deadly real. Khalid gave her a Cartier bracelet after their second meeting. Then came spa treatments. A laptop, rent for 6 months paid in advance. A business-class surprise trip to Turkey. You deserve more than scraps, he told her once. You deserve power. Zara never asked him for anything, but she never refused either. She convinced herself it was temporary, harmless, private, until he started talking about Omar. You've met my son, haven't you? He asked one night over dinner at Emirates Palace. She blinked, just once, at a company event. He likes you, Khalid said, smiling behind his glass. You should say yes if he asks you out. Zara stared at him, confused. But why would you want? He leaned in, eyes gleaming. Because you'll always be mine, no matter who you marry. She didn't sleep that night. For the first time in months, the gifts felt like chains. The suite she stayed in felt like a cage. That was the night she decided to block Khalid. Change numbers. Run if needed. But before she could disappear, her company announced that Mr. Khalid Al-Sayed had requested her personally for a private project, a villa being gifted to his son and future daughter-in-law. She's not even engaged, Zara told her boss. Not yet, he replied. But that's coming soon. Maybe you. Zara stared at the ring box in her hand. Omar had just finished the most romantic proposal. Sunset boat ride, violinist. Cameras catching every moment. His eyes were soft. His smile wide. He was nothing like his father. He wasn't aggressive. He wasn't calculating. He didn't talk about power. He talked about books and dogs and how he hated flying, but wanted to see the world. She said yes, because she wanted to believe she could bury the past. That Omar was a fresh start. But that night, her phone lit up with a message from a new number. I'm proud of you. The ring suits you. I chose well. Kay. Zara stood in the bridal fitting room, surrounded by fabric and mirrors. Her reflection looked like a stranger. She hadn't seen Khalid in months, but she felt him everywhere. Every time she put on the necklace he gave her, every time Omar mentioned him. You know, he wants us to move into the Jumeirah villa after the wedding? Omar said over dinner once. Zara's fork stopped midway to her mouth. The same one I designed? Yes. Omar laughed. He says it's your masterpiece. She went home and cried for an hour. Zara's phone rang. An unlisted number. She didn't want to answer, but she did. Meet me one last time. Why? She whispered. Because I have your secrets. And if I can't have you, neither can he. In a desperate attempt to protect her future, she agreed. One final meeting. A hotel suite. One night. That was the deal. She told herself she was ending it. But when she arrived, Khalid handed her a red folder, full of photos, hotel bills, gifts under fake names. Everything that could ruin her engagement. You're mine, he said again. Always. Zara cried that night, not from guilt, but from knowing she had trapped herself. When she left at dawn, she hoped it was over. She never imagined someone had seen her leaving, or that a note would end up in her groom's hand. The day was everything Zara had never imagined for herself. Grand, beautiful, suffocating. From the moment she opened her eyes in the hotel bridal suite, her body had felt heavy, not from the weight of the lehenga, or the gold jewelry wrapped around her wrists and neck, but from the truth pressed into her chest like a stone she couldn't breathe under. Today she would become Omar's wife. And no one, not even Omar, truly knew who she was anymore. Makeup artists fluttered around her like butterflies in panic. Cameras clicked. The wedding planner whispered in her ear about guests, timing, entrances. Zara barely heard a thing. Her mother video called from Lahore, smiling through weak hospital eyes. You look like a queen, she said. Zara forced a smile and blinked away the sting. I'll send you pictures, she whispered, voice tight. She couldn't say the words. I don't deserve this. The ballroom was a palace. Golden floral arches, white orchids, a live oud player filling the space with haunting melody. Omar arrived first, handsome in his white sherwani, glowing with excitement. Guests clapped. Phones came up. He was the perfect groom, ready to start a perfect life. Khalid arrived minutes later. He didn't look at Zara right away. He simply made his rounds, kissing aunts on cheeks, shaking hands, making everyone laugh. Power in motion. When his eyes did meet hers, it was for a second, and it was enough. There was no guilt in his face. No fear, just a flicker of control, like she was still his puppet. Zara's hands went cold under her velvet dupatta. The vows were said, paper signed. Applause roared. Omar leaned down and kissed her forehead. You're mine now, he whispered, beaming. She couldn't respond. Her mouth wouldn't move. In her chest, her heart was hammering in panic. By the time the dancing began, Zara's feet were aching, her head was spinning. She stood beside Omar as they greeted guests, accepted flowers, posed for hundreds of photos. And then she saw her, a woman maybe in her 30s, standing near the back of the ballroom. Plain clothes, no invitation in hand, just a distant stare. She was watching Khalid. Zara recognized her. One of the maids from the Abu Dhabi hotel. The woman slowly walked forward, then whispered something to a waiter. Within moments, a folded note was slipped onto Omar's plate. Zara's blood went ice cold. Zara could barely breathe. Omar appeared behind her, holding the paper. "Someone sent me a weird note," he said, chuckling. She turned, hiding the fear in her eyes. "What kind of note?" He read it aloud. "Ask your bride who she was with last weekend in Abu Dhabi." Zara's throat closed. "Jealous cousin," she whispered. "Ignore it." Omar tilted his head. "But you told me you were with Amina." "I was," she lied, but her voice cracked. He didn't say anything, just stared at her. Omar never told her he was going to check, but he did. He handed the note to the front desk, gave his name, asked about Abu Dhabi's Al Bahar Resort, cross-checked dates. It took minutes. The screen pulled up Khalid Al Sayed, VIP suite, additional guest, Zara Khan. Omar stood frozen. The walls swam around him, his bride, his father, together, while he was preparing his vows. Zara was already in the room, removing her jewelry. Her wrists ached from the weight of tradition. Omar entered quietly. In his hand, the hotel logs. She turned, sensing him behind her. "Omar, I need to tell you something." But he said nothing. He just held up the screen. She saw it and broke. Her voice cracked. "It wasn't what it looks like. You were with him." "Yes," she whispered, "but it's not like you think." "How is it then?" he said, stepping forward, voice rising. "Did he force you? Did you love him?" "No. I was scared. I didn't know how to stop it." "You slept with my father," he shouted. She flinched. Omar paced the room like a lion about to snap. "You stood under that wedding canopy and swore to be mine." "I wanted to leave it behind," she sobbed. "I never wanted him. I couldn't say no. He threatened me." He stopped. His eyes met hers. "And now you're mine forever," he said, voice hollow. Then he turned, walked out the door. She collapsed to her knees, shaking. He didn't go to the bar, or a friend, or the beach. He went to Khalid. The villa stood silent under the Dubai night sky, the moonlight spilling across its marble exterior. It looked like peace, but inside, something ugly had already begun to boil. Omar's white sherwani was stained with sweat and rage. He gripped the hotel log printout, so tightly it crumpled into his palm. Every step toward the private family villa echoed with betrayal. He didn't call ahead. He didn't knock. He shoved the door open. Khalid was alone, swirling a glass of aged whiskey in his hand. The TV played a muted sports channel. He looked up. "You're here," he said, calm as ever. "Shouldn't you be with your bride?" Omar threw the paper onto the table. "You were with her." Khalid's smile barely twitched. "Define with, son." Omar's voice cracked. "Don't you dare play that game with me." Khalid leaned back in his leather chair, almost amused. "I gave her everything she asked for. Protection, discretion, even helped clear her mother's medical bills." Omar stared in disbelief. "You think money makes this less disgusting?" Khalid's eyes hardened. "She didn't say no. And neither did I. Don't pretend this is all one-sided." Omar lunged. He grabbed his father by the collar, shoved him against the wall. "You are my father." "And she was a pretty little liar," Khalid snapped. "I warned you, Omar. Women like her don't marry for love. They marry to escape." The truth spilled faster than either expected. Zara had been working as a junior PR rep at one of Khalid's corporate events. He noticed her. She didn't dare say no. One dinner, one friendly ride, then a secret room booked under another name. She never expected him to be Omar's father. By the time she knew, it was too late. And when Khalid discovered she was getting close to Omar, he encouraged it. #hashtag scene. Back to present. Omar stood in horror. "You manipulated both of us." "I protected my legacy," Khalid said. "She was a liability. And now she's yours." Omar reached into his pocket. A knife, ornamental. A gift he'd received that very day from his uncle. He wasn't even sure why he still had it on him. But now, it trembled in his hands. "She loved me," Omar whispered. She loved comfort. Khalid spat. Something snapped. The slash came fast. Messy. Across Khalid's arm first. Warning or instinct. Omar wasn't sure, but Khalid fought back. The old man was strong. He shoved his son against the wall, sending a vase crashing. I made you, he roared. You are nothing without me. The second stab was deep, into the ribs. Then another. Khalid collapsed, gasping, eyes wide in disbelief. Blood pooled under the Persian rug. The king had fallen. Minutes later, Zara ran into the villa. She'd followed Omar's location on his phone. She saw the blood first, then the figure crumpled near the fireplace. And Omar crouched over the body, shaking, hands red. She screamed, "What have you done?" Omar looked up slowly, eyes empty, face pale. He never deserved either of us, he murmured. Zara dropped to her knees, tears streaming. This wasn't supposed to happen. Sirens weren't blaring. Not yet. The outside world was still unaware. But Zara knew there was a surveillance system, knew the guards would return from their break, and knew one more thing. She couldn't survive the scandal. Not again. She looked at the knife on the floor. Then at Omar. You have to go. What? You can't be here when they arrive. I'll say, he slipped, that I came in too late. Omar shook his head. No, I'm not letting you cover for me. Please, she said, clutching his hand. Let me fix this. But outside, footsteps echoed. One of the guards. A voice called out. They had seconds. Zara panicked, grabbed the knife, and did the unthinkable. The knife went into her stomach. Just enough to bleed. Just enough to scream. The guard burst and see a bride collapse in blood, a dead man nearby, and Omar frozen in horror. Zara gasped, reaching for the guard. He stabbed us, she whispered, pointing to Omar. He went mad. Then she fainted. The courtroom buzzed like a hive under pressure. Dubai's press had already dubbed it the blood-wetting trial. Zara sat in the witness box, pale, bandaged, and dressed in mourning white. Omar sat across from her, in the accused box, stone-faced, hands cuffed. Everyone was waiting for her story. She inhaled shakily, then began. He came in, screaming about betrayal, about his father. I didn't understand it at first. She glanced at the jury, eyes wet but focused. They argued. I tried to stop them. Then suddenly he had a knife. Gasps, murmurs. A few reporters typed faster. He stabbed his own father. And when I screamed, he turned on me too. She pointed a trembling hand at Omar. I thought I was going to die. The story exploded across headlines. Billionaire groom butchers father over wedding night secret. Bride survives double stabbing. Tells all. Lovers, lies, and luxury. Dubai's most twisted marriage. Social media was split. Half the world mourned with Zara. The other half didn't buy her tears. A week into trial, the forensic team took the stand. What they revealed changed everything. 1. Zara's wound was self-inflicted. Shallow. Perfectly placed to miss any artery. 2. Omar's prints were only on the handle, not the blade. He held the knife, but there was no evidence he used it. 3. Khalid's phone was found hidden, with messages from Zara, explicit, manipulative, and worst of all, time before she met Omar. Zara's face fell as the evidence was displayed. The judge leaned forward. Ms. Zara, do you deny these texts? She whispered. No. The defense attorney stood. So, you were romantically involved with the victim before your relationship with the son? Zara stayed silent. And you were planning to marry the son while still messaging the father about secret nights and private gifts? A tear slipped down her cheek. When it was his turn, Omar stood tall. I loved her, he said. I didn't know what she was hiding. I walked in that night, thinking something was wrong. I never wanted to kill anyone. He paused. But when my father laughed at me, told me I was just a pawn, I lost it. He looked toward Zara. But I never touched her, never hurt her. She did that herself. Just when it looked like Zara might still walk free, the prosecutor dropped the final bomb. Surveillance footage. The camera outside the villa's back entrance. Zara, entering after the murder. Not before. No signs of fear. No screaming. Only a few minutes later, she ran out, bloody and wailing. After 2 weeks of dramatic testimony, secret footage, texts, and lies, the jury delivered its decision. Omar, guilty of voluntary manslaughter, claimed self-defense, sentence reduced. Zara, guilty of perjury and obstruction of justice. She collapsed in tears as her sentencing was read. Omar was sentenced to 9 years in prison. Zara received 5 years, but would serve less with cooperation and mental health evaluation. Both would leave the courtroom in handcuffs. But their names would never be forgotten. Their wedding night would be remembered not for love, but for betrayal, murder, and the most shocking family secret in Dubai's criminal history. 5 years had passed. Zara sat quietly in the women's wing of Al Awar Central Jail. Her cell was sparse. No photos, no visitors, just a small radio that played Arabic ballads in the evenings, and a copy of the Quran she never opened. The guards called her the Black Bride. She was to be released that morning, but she wouldn't walk out. At 5:32 a.m., a guard doing routine checks found her unresponsive. A half-finished letter was clutched in her hand. Her pulse was gone. Empty sleeping pill bottles lay nearby. The letter, now evidence, was handwritten on prison stationery. It was addressed to no one, or maybe to everyone. If you're reading this, it means I couldn't carry the burden anymore. I didn't come to prison for what I did. I came here for what I hid, what none of you ever knew. I was pregnant the night Khalid died. It wasn't Omar's. It wasn't even Khalid's. It was someone else's entirely. The letter detailed Zara's years in Lebanon before she came to Dubai. A life filled with manipulation, survival, and calculated moves. She met Khalid at a hotel. He didn't know her real name, but she recognized him, a powerful businessman with a known taste for women far younger. Zara didn't fall in love. She saw an opportunity. I made him fall in love. I made him want to leave his family for me. And when he didn't, I played my next card. She targeted Omar. Young, idealistic, lonely. I knew if I married him, Khalid would lose control and reveal the affair. Then I'd use that chaos to destroy them both. She admitted to planting the knife, to messaging herself from Khalid's phone after his death. The scream I let out? It wasn't pain. It was victory, because I knew the world would believe me. But when the trial turned against her, she crumbled, not because she was caught, but because the baby didn't survive. #hashtag scene. Omar reads a letter in prison. A guard handed the letter to Omar a week later in his prison block. He read it once, then again. His hands trembled, but not from rage, just disbelief. The woman he once dreamed of marrying, the woman he almost died for, had played them all, and he had killed his father for her lies. She ruined my life, he whispered, then added, but I let her. As the case files were being closed, an investigator found something odd. A bank transfer from a hidden offshore account to a man in Turkey, a name redacted in previous documents. This man had sent Zara money monthly for years. When traced further, the bank noted, relationship, father-child. Zara's baby had never belonged to Khalid or Omar. The real father? Unknown, never caught, possibly part of a larger game. But one thing was now certain. Everyone in this story was a pawn. And Zara? She was the player and the victim. A woman who weaponized love, lust, and loyalty, and died with her secrets, still bleeding onto the paper.